Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, I am here, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, talking about how to get better at different new decks, right? Decks that you are unfamiliar with, or decks that are new to you, or what have you, right? And if you want to start learning a new deck, what is the best way to do that? Well, I have a deck right here that I'm going to this is a deck that I know about, but I'm going to explain how to look at a deck, what are some synergies to look for, and what are some things to start with. First and foremost, you can always just look online, check someone else's deck, and then edit it to meet your own standards or what you may be going up against, right? Say, for example, if I had this list, but instead of playing a Harpy's Feather Duster, I was playing the third Ash Blossom. You may say, I kind of like the Harpy's Feather Duster. It allows me to deal with back row. You know, I'm going to play that instead. Totally fine. You could switch out cards here or there, however you so feel. That is one of the most important things. Genuinely, it's one of the things that makes Yu-Gi-Oh! Really cool. Say, for example, I just wanted to play a 59 card deck. I could do that instead, you know. I could play I could play like a 41 card deck as well if I so chose, right? So there's a whole bunch of things that you can do to really make a deck your own. If you've ever seen some of my deck building and stuff like that, you will see that most of the time I don't end on solely 40 cards within a deck. Sometimes I'll end with like 41, or I'll have 42 or something like that, kind of just depending on what I end up feeling makes the most sense. So do keep that in mind. You can play however many cards or whatever cards that you feel are necessary, right? For example, if you think that Ash Blossom isn't really worth it, maybe you want to play more spells, you know, something like Forbidden Droplets, etc. Go ahead. Feel free to do that. That's also a great option. So, there you go. Let's quickly talk about how to actually build, or not necessarily build, but understand an archetype when going into the deck building process. First of all, in Master Duel, there's a great little thing that you can do where you can just click this card right here. So you've clicked one of the archetypal cards, and then you just click related cards, and now you can see all of the cards that are related to this card. Most of the time, this will bring up the rest of the archetype. So here we can see basically every single card within the archetype. If I were to go and type in Witchcrafter in the search bar, this would basically do the same thing. As you can see, there's all the cards. I think when I go like this, it shows me everything. It's kind of a little bit more out of order, but it basically accomplishes the same thing. So there you go. That's a great way to just start by looking at all the cards that you may need, etc. Another great way to look for things that have synergies is to look at what mechanics they are focused on, right? For example, with a lot of the Witchcrafter stuff, they are heavily focused around spells, right? So, as you can see, we are running a lot of spells, right? Over half of the deck is synergized with spells, right? We have That Grass Looks Greener, because a lot of the spells also have graveyard effects, so really solid. We're also playing Left Arm Offering, Reasoning, just to get us more access to our monsters, or our That Grass Looks Greener, etc. Also playing things like Foolish Burial Goods, dumping a spell, not a bad idea, right? So just thinking of incidental synergies like that, right? If, for example, they are a link-focused deck that can go into a lot of different link monsters, playing things like Access Code Talker, Nightmare packages, stuff like that is a really good idea. Do they go into a lot of Xyz monsters? Can they play Zeus, you know? Are they Xeno locked in any way where they are strictly forbidden into going into anything that's like not part of their archetype, right? So anything like that, right? Another thing that you can easily look at and identify for deck building is types and attributes, right? For example, all of the Witchcrafters are different attributes. We have a wind, we have an earth, we have a water, fire, dark, and a light, and then another light. So a whole bunch of different archetypes, attributes, a whole bunch of different attributes within the archetype, meaning that it's not really going to be an attribute focused or an attribute centric playstyle, right? You're not going to get locked into like fire types or something like that. But, you know, if I were to go and look at some Salamangreat cards, you would see that all of them are fire, right? Fire here, fire there, you know, this guy's fire, you got fire, synergy, you know, a lot of stuff that has to do with fire, etc., etc. So when looking at that, you'll maybe want to look for more cards that synergize specifically with fire types or anything like that, and maybe there you will find something that works, right? The second thing is obviously types, which I previously mentioned. So here, all of the Witchcrafters are Spellcaster, right? They're all Spellcasters, which means there are a lot of support cards that specifically help Spellcasters. So if I were to type in Spellcaster here, you can see obviously some Witchcrafter cards are going to come up, but then there's just going to be a whole bunch of other cards that are either going to list spellcasters, that are going to have spellcaster support, or what have you, right? And you can even do something like this and be like, okay, what kind of spellcasters do I want to go for? You know, I could play something like Magician's Souls, you know, because it dumps a level 6 or higher spellcaster. Maybe I wanted to play something like this, although I probably wouldn't. It's not really a good idea to get these monsters into the grave, you know, and stuff like that, right? You'd be like, oh, maybe I want to play Magicalized Fusion with some extra deck monsters because I'm sending a lot of cards to the graveyard. Again, something to think about. Maybe you want to play Wonder Wand to draw some more cards. Maybe you want to play it with your spell books, right? You want to play a spellbook Witchcrafter engine because obviously spell books have a lot of spells. That's some incidental synergy there, right? Pretty nice, you know? And that gives you more ideas. You can be like, okay, now I've got a few ideas to work with when I go into deck building, as well as just a general idea when it comes to playing the deck as well, right? Because now you know, hey, this has synergy with spells, so I'm going to look and hopefully try and get as many spells that I can either into my hand or in rotation, right? Now, granted, with every deck, it is a unique experience. However, a lot of decks have a very similar playstyle, right? Summon out big boss monsters. So another key thing to look for is what is an end board that you want to work towards, right? What is it that you want to finish your turn on to either OTK your opponent, right? To destroy their field, or to you know, interact with them to basically put you in the driver's seat going second, or going first to prevent your opponent from destroying your own board, right? For Witchcrafters, you want to end on something like a Hain as well as a Madame Vere with some spells in hand, as well as things like Buy Street and Scroll on the field, right? Because these are your two big boss monsters, right? One of them can quick effect destroy a face-up card, and one of them has a blanket effect negation for all monsters on your opponent's side of the field. So, two really good effects, you know, two really good quick effects. So if you're able to get both of them out, great. So there you go. That's kind of something that you would want to look for. Another thing to look into is the levels, right? A lot of XZ monsters are rather powerful, so playing more of them allows you to open up your extra deck, play more powerful boss engines and stuff like that, right? And so here we see that, you know, a lot of them, most of the Witchcrafters are different levels, making it kind of difficult to go into our XZ monsters. However, we still have a couple of options when it comes to XZ monsters. We have level 4, we have level 7, we have level 8, so we can throw in some of that stuff as well if we need to, right? Again, just little tech decisions to make things easier in corner cases where, you know, maybe you need this against a specific matchup, right? Like maybe going into Draglubion against something like Sky Striker could be very good to bring out a Hope Harbinger to get that negate. Very nice, you know, or, you know, maybe they have a really hard time against Zeus, so going into an XZ monster just to get the attack in for your Zeus proc to allow you to go for Zeus is very nice, you know, stuff like that. On top of that, most decks have the ability to go into Link monsters, so just thinking of powerful Link monsters that potentially you could go into is another option there as well. So yeah. All of that is something to keep in mind, more so during deck building. Another thing that we can look at when going into deck building is how much of the deck itself is easily accessible off of however many cards, right? How many cards, basically, do you need to see in order to see the rest of your deck, right? For example, with Witchcrafters, as we had previously seen, it's not so much about how, like, what cards, as much as it is about how many cards, right? It's better to see more of your cards, which is why something like That Grass Looks Greener is so useful. However, in comparison, we can look at something like Tri-Brigade Zodiac, where they are more focused on if you see one or two pieces of your engine, you can potentially see your entire engine, allowing us to play a lot more hand traps. Things like Max C, Ash Blossom, etc., as well as other such tech cards like Tenki and Pot of Desires, right? So, with this in mind, it makes us a lot more easily, or it makes it a lot more easily accessible to go for more hand traps, allowing us for more interaction on the opponent's turn, slowing the opponent down, etc., etc. Also allowing us to basically just play as few engine cards in the main deck and mostly relying on the extra deck, right? So yeah, just the synergies there are pretty simple, right? Maybe I don't need to see all of my engine as well, so something like Pot of Desires, which can banish a bunch of the engine, is still nice, right? Something like Pot of Desires, however, in a deck where you really need to see specific cards, probably not a good idea, especially when you have like a searchable boss monster, right? Pot of Desires in something like Dark Lords probably wouldn't work, given the fact that, you know, you're only playing one or maybe two Morning Stars, which is a very important card for your combo. However, here, again, not that big of a deal. So, these are the things that you kind of want to work towards to think about, right? As you can see here, they have also Beast Warrior synergy with a lot of their cards, just because of the fact that, you know, Zodiacs are Beast Warriors, Tri-Brigade has Beast Warriors that, you know, they can synergize there. So, again, lots of synergies, things to think about with deck building. Now, when it comes to actually making or playing a deck, this is where the best advice I can give is just play the game. Just continue to play against different decks, play against different strategies, get used to the combos, you know, get used to what things do. If you don't want to look up necessarily a tutorial video on it, maybe go into like solo mode or just a practice room, kind of work out the synergies, make sure that you read your card and be like, oh, so this can go into this, which can search out this guy, and then all I need is another card to, you know, to utilize. Or, you know, oh, I can go this guy into this guy, into this guy, into this guy, bring back this guy, or what have you. Whatever it may be, just figure out, either just by testing the deck yourself or through watching a video or something like that, what the combos are, and then practice that, right? Just practice understanding what those combos are, right? One thing that I do in real life is I have my Dark Lord deck just sitting right here. The Dark Lord deck that I play in real life. Just have it sitting here, as you can see. And sometimes when I'm bored, I will just sit here and I'll shuffle the cards, and I'll draw my 5 cards, and I'll just look at it and be like, okay, yeah, so this is the hand that I drew. You know, I'm gonna, oh, here's what plays I can make. You know, like, okay, we're gonna go Banishment, and we're gonna search Ixchel, and then Ixchel is gonna go from there to there, etc., etc. So, yeah, it's a lot of just practicing, you know, practice makes permanent. So, make sure that you're practicing and understanding the combos, right? And also making sure that you are understanding where the choke points are for your deck, knowing how to play around things like Ash Blossom, Max C, Gamma, etc., you know, whatever hand traps. Just making sure that you're aware of what the opponent can do as well. And it's... Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a complicated game. It's not something where you can just start, you know, pick up the game, read the cards, read everything that your opponent has and stuff like that, and then you'll be fine. It's not quite like that. It's not something like Pokemon where you can literally just not even worry about what your opponent has as long as you are able to play your game. You do have to interact with your opponent. You do have to know what they are doing as well. So getting good at another archetype, the best way to do that is just be good at the game itself. So yeah, I would say play one deck, get really good at it, and then you can branch out and experiment with other decks, understanding the complexities of them, and understanding that the game itself is understanding the game itself is the best way to improve. So there you go. But yeah, there are a ton of different things that you can do with a ton of different decks in order to help you understand the play style and all of that. And, you know, realistically, I could just say, oh yeah, just, you know, read through every single card so that you know, hey, this is what this does. This is what this does. Maybe you want to play this card. Maybe you don't want to play this card. But realistically, do I need to say that? Do I need to be like, hey, you need to read every card? Nah, you can just look up a deck list online and be like, oh, why are they not playing this card? And then read the card yourself and be like, oh yeah, this makes sense, you know? Or maybe you could just look up a deck list, copy it card for card, and then start playing it and figure out the synergies from there. Other than that, like I have a paper here full of things to say, and I've basically said everything. There's not really anything else that I can teach you. It's kind of just trial and error, unless I were to teach you something about a specific deck. But there are so many different things with so many different decks that me trying to teach you about all of them, we would be here for ages. So I hope that this has at least helped someone out there to understand how to deck build, how to start up a new archetype, how to get the understanding that you so need, etc., etc. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, a like is very much so appreciated. And if you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh, then just be sure to subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.